68% of those participated in free programming, which is incredible in terms of accessibility and really getting out there. And that was in 660 communities. So every province, every territory, 660 communities were engaged through this network. So a big part of that growth, that's a huge growth, that's almost 20% growth over 2018. A big part of that was the infusion of funding from the federal government, which enabled you to do so much more programming. But that is in and of itself, it's not just the money. Actually executing on that is remarkable. And not only did we execute on CAN Code 1 successfully, but they renewed us for another $12 million to move forward. So that is a really significant accomplishment for all of you and for your teams on the ground. Just heading into the next panel, I want to mention one other thing that was really, that we're really proud of from the past year and that you adopted in a huge way, which is the Future Skills Program. And this is a program that was specifically developed based on your feedback and the experiences that you've had over the past 25 plus years in employing undergraduate students. And there are a huge number of them, almost 1,000. This network employs 1,000 undergraduate students. That's a huge amount of job creation across the country for students. And we've long known that that has a significant impact, and many of us, myself included, experienced that firsthand, right? Really learning the most about life and work by working at one of these programs. And so this program, which was generously supported by the RBC Future Launch Program and by MasterCard, was really to take that to the next level. So we did a giant inventory of all of the training and a skills framework of the specific employability skills that these undergraduate employees are gaining, to really understand it, but then to intentionally augment it. And it has been really popular, and you have all really embraced it and wanted to participate. And so we're excited to share some of the results of that. But moving now to this panel, that's really what the theme is for us over the next hour and a half, is talking about the future of work, which for you, and even for me, because we're all in this space, but the future of work has become a bit of a buzzword, and for good reason. So not all buzzwords have value, but this one actually does. It really is a topic that we are all immersing ourselves in on a daily basis. It's why we do the work that we're doing. We're really helping to prepare and equip youth for what careers they are going to pursue in the future. And so much has changed, and we all know this. Some of us in the room, but certainly generations before us, had much clearer pathways forward. And today, there's a whole bunch of new jobs that we hadn't even heard of or couldn't even conceptualize, just a few short years ago. So we're trying to prepare youth for that, right? So when I started this work, a few years ago, it was still very clear, like you were going to be an engineer, you'd be going to medicine, or it was very easy to wrap your head around, easy to understand the skill set, and all that is up in the air. And what I'm really proud of, and why we have stayed so relevant as an organization, is because we've always been ahead of the curve in understanding the kinds of skills and experiences that are going to be necessary to keep youth on the right path in terms of preparing them for what's coming in the future. And that absolutely is the case now. Part of that is because we have these amazing partnerships with corporations, and corporations that we're going to hear from today. RBC, Toyota, Microsoft, and all of the other corporate partners that we've been so lucky to have on our side working on this together. So not just providing funding, but actually helping us, because they have a huge stake in this as well, right? How they're going to prepare themselves for their future workforces. So we're going to hear from our industry partners in a few minutes, but first, and with respect, maybe more importantly, we are going to hear directly from youth. So we spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time, talking about what youth need and what you think and what things that they are interested in. And we have committed, and we've been super committed to this over the past number of years, to always make sure that we are accurate with those assumptions. So the only way to do that is by having youth voice at the center and always present in the work that we do. So we're not doing this work for them or without them, we're doing it with them, we're listening, and we're recognizing that they have an extreme amount of expertise now that they can share with us, and that's going to make this work even have an even deeper impact. And I spent the morning with our youth delegates from the InSTEM in the InSTEM conference, and they are amazing. They're from all over the country. They participated in a land-based Actua InSTEM program, and they have an incredible amount of expertise and knowledge. So we're going to hear from the youth first. We're going to ask them some questions about what they think about this topic. So I'm going to invite them to come up to the stage now. So Aaron Sun, Ria Mehta, and Ganabot Gagne, please join me on the stage. Okay. Do we have mics or? There they are.
I mean, I think they're coming.
Perfect. Okay, great. Hello? Do I have to turn?
She's turning them on.
Oh, you're gonna turn on. Sorry. Are we good? Excellent, we're good. Okay, thanks for being here. And as you'll hear in a minute, these three are super underachievers. You should be in school. Kidding. They should be running the schools. You should be running the education system, actually, in Ontario especially. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. So just tell us who you are, what you're doing now. So where do you study or where do you work, or both, and where do you live?
Okay, my name is Ganabot Gagne. Wajia and Sungaswing Ganabot Gagne, Luchi Nagud, Wachi Lukum. So hi everyone, I'm from the Cree Nation of Chisasitu, which is in central northern Quebec on James Bay, corner of Hudson's Bay. Currently I'm a grade 12 student here in the city at Glebe Collegiate Institute, and I work at Actua every afternoon as part of a co-op that I have going on right now. I'm the chair of Actua's Youth Council. I'm the Ottawa Carleton District School Board Student Trustee and a member of the Ottawa Youth Engagement Committee, so that fills up pretty much all of my time. But you know, it's fun. I think I got all your questions.
Yeah, well, perfect. Okay, awesome. Thanks for that awesome introduction, Jen. Hi everybody, my name is Ria, and I'm actually 16 years old. I'm in grade 11. Supposed to be in school, but that's another conversation for later. I'm actually an artificial intelligence and genomic researcher at St. Kitts. So I work there full time. I do online school because of my commitment, which I'm going to jump into later in the panel. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here, and I love everything about promoting STEM and youth. I'm a really, really big advocate for that. So again, super excited to be here, and yeah, thanks.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, so next. Hi everybody, my name is Erin Sun. I'm a first year undergrad student at Carleton. I'm currently in the dev degree program with Shopify. It's my first year. And I am really excited to be here on this panel and talk to you guys about the future of work. It is something that I am quite interested in and passionate about. I'm a huge advocate on the topic of gender diversity in the STEM fields. It's incredibly important and close to my heart, so I'm excited.
Give us the 2-minute, what's the dev degree program at Shopify?
I've been practicing this. So it's a work integrated learning program at Shopify. It's still fairly new. It's in its 4th year. I know in tech years, that's a long time, but it's still in its infancy. It's a program first was conceived by the CTO, JML, and he saw this huge underpreparedness of the candidates that were coming through the door into the tech industry. and he followed it to the source of the problem, which he found was in the education system, especially for software engineering and tech. The students weren't coming out prepared enough to be a part of a company. They weren't well integrated into the system, and he thought of this amazing program that I'm incredibly excited to be a part of. It's a huge commitment, but I love every second of it.
So you go to school at Shopify,
Yes.
and you get paid to go you get paid to work and to go to school, doing a computer science degree.
Yes.
Ish.
So I think it's technically called a sponsored student, so Shopify pays for my tuition, and I'm paid a salary to do work part-time at Shopify on their development teams.
Amazing. Great. Okay, so talk to us first about what do you think, like when I'm up there and I'm talking about the future of work and how we have to prepare youth and how the workforce has changed and technological advancements are, exponentially changing everything. What are you thinking in your head? What do you think when you hear the term future of work? Who wants to start?
I can go first. Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this the other day, and again, just like you said, we hear these big buzzwords like blockchain, artificial intelligence, etc. But I think that a lot of us hear these buzzwords, but we don't really actually understand how we're going to apply them or how our youth is going to evolve with these different technologies. And that's something that I'm really passionate about focusing on. I decided to do online school after I started doing research on sick kids, and I really started to see a bigger impact with the technology and the work that I was doing. But I really believe that when we hear future of work, we think of sustainability, we think of innovation, right? That's what we're all here. We want that spark in us. We want to grow with the future, we want to grow with technology. And something that really comes to mind for me personally is this idea of moonshots. I'm a big moonshot thinker. So I think of a future that I want, I envision a future that I want, and I go about executing it. And I think in our industry, let's say 50 years ago, that wouldn't really be a reality. When we hear a kid talking about, changing $1 billion industry or going after really big world issues or solving the world's hardest problems, nobody would really actually think that would be a reality. But I think with the progression of technology and with amazing conferences like these, supporting youth and growing us exponentially, anything is a possibility. So when I think about the future of work, I think about how we're actually going to grow with technology, right? We don't want to leave anyone in the past. That's the whole purpose of going after world issues, solving world issues, enhancing and engaging youth, because there are powerhouses, they're our future, and there's nothing more powerful than that. Yeah.
Okay, I can go next and start with my much less impressive answer for when you say future work. So to be quite frank, the first thing that comes to mind is something my father said to me when I was 8 that absolutely scarred me for life. And it was on the topic of the future of work, and he told me I should work in a morgue because people won't stop dying and we probably won't trust robots to bury bodies. Now, I never heard the term future of work again until I got involved with Actua about 4 years ago. But in my mind, it's a little scary, but I like challenges, so I'm very excited for it. We hear the statistics thrown around. I've heard that 70% of jobs are gone now. I've heard that 40% of jobs are gone now. I've heard that the market hasn't changed in the last 150 years. Whoever you ask seems to have a different answer. But I think that highlights the importance of soft skills versus hard skills to me. It's something that I think we hear a little bit more about now, but probably not as much as we need to. When I was in middle school and elementary school, the idea of preparing yourself for a career was, oh, you need to learn math, you need to learn this subject, you need to know how to use this device. And now when I talk to students who are in elementary school, their teachers are saying you need to be a good communicator, you need to be empathetic, you need to know how to work with people you don't necessarily get along with. Those are the skills that will impact the future of work because they're transferable. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could be cleaning up garbage, you could be designing the next Facebook, hopefully not, or you could be designing the Terminator movies, I don't know. But in all of those situations, you have to be communicating with a team. You are usually responsible to someone and you have commitments to other people. And those are skills that you don't learn by learning how to use a calculator or memorizing your times tables. So when I think about the future of work, what scares me is not its unpredictability, it's just the fact society values soft skills, but we put it on the education institution, and the educational institution puts it on society to teach us, leaving us completely underprepared.
Very well said. Wow. interesting topic because I am currently working, and it's something that I'm actively thinking about, especially since questions come up. I think, especially in the context that we're talking about it right now, it's a conversation surrounding the juxtaposition between the employability market right now and how we're preemptively thinking about it for the future. So currently, there are successes and shortfallings for every job market, and in this context, we want to talk and think about what those shortfallings are going to be and how we can best prepare our current youth to tackle those head on. Because we know they're going to come. We don't know where they're going to come from. It's still abstract and vague in every sense, but there are still aspects of it that we can face head on and we can best prepare our youth for it.
So, again, you talked about this a little bit, but when you were talking about what's happening in school. So, one of the other not big words, but one of the other thing that we're talking about is employability skills. And so I'd like you to tell us, because you're doing online education, you've now finished and are in post-secondary, and you're just finishing in school. You actually go to school sometimes. Partially, yes. Which is really interesting, all of you. What skills, just talk first inside of school, and then we'll talk outside of school. So what skills have you learned in terms of what you see as employability skills? Because you actually all are working already. What are the skills that have been most useful to you gained at school? Actually, I'm going to ask both questions at once so you can answer both. And then talk to us about the most formative experiences that you've had outside of school and how those have developed your employability skills.
So I guess I can go first. I actually want to share an experience, tell a little bit about my own experience working at Sick Kids. I'll dive into it a little bit later, but I actually got started through my school working at Sick Kids. So I'm sure everyone has heard of like co-op programs, cooperative education. I'm a huge advocate for cooperative education. Like he said, hard skills like coding and etc. it can be taught, but I think that soft skills, you have to put yourself in that experience to teach yourself, right? Leading a team, etc. You have to put yourself in that experience. You have to get uncomfortable. So in school, I grew up in an amazing environment where I was, challenged in terms of collaboration. I always had that leadership experience, but I wanted something more. I wanted to go out and I wanted to actually be in the real world. So when I heard that my school had this co-op program, it's an amazing program that literally puts kids in these situations every day, right? I decided that I wanted to go to Sick Kids and I want to make an impact, and all the patients and everyone that I talked to, I really gained a lot of skills around, sustainability, innovation, just thinking about what I want to do and the impact that I want to make. And something that I've landed on is basically using emerging technologies and wanting to solve a lot of problems in the world. That's a skill that I honestly believe is something that has to be trained, and again, you have to put yourself in the situation to do that. So particularly in school, I was fortunate enough to be part of an amazing community where I was taught collaboration, I was taught to work with people, I was taught to basically grow myself every single day. But when I was put into this real world, it was a completely different situation. I had to learn how to adapt to the environment around me. And I think that when we talk about employability skills, we can't only rely on things like schools to teach us that. We have to actually go out and get that experience. So I definitely am a huge advocate for co-op, and I'm trying to put more co-op programs in our school that teach us about science, that teach us about technology. Because I think that those employability skills, even learning the soft skills, forget about the research that I do, just thinking about how I communicate with patients, how I talk to people at such a young age, right? How I talk to really anyone, how I talk to doctors, like all these different things. I think that in between, it comes to experience. It comes to putting yourself in those difficult situations. It comes through, like you said, soft skills. So I think that's why in school I actually had an amazing outreach program for co-op, which is what taught me a lot. But that's kind of how I got started with thinking about how am I going to grow myself in terms of employability skills. Yeah, definitely.
Are you are you in grade 11 or 12?
11.
Okay, so you know what? You can go for a nice one, I think.
I'll take it. So I'm assuming we're talking about my experience in high school.
Yes. Well, whenever. Anytime. Any school.
So I think that, now that I've graduated high school, I take a lot of time and reflect on my time there and how I've grown from it. It's a nice little retro I do for myself here and there. And recently, I put a lot of thought into it while I was sitting there really late at night trying to do an assignment. And all the skills that have helped me excel in my career and in my education post-secondary has all really stemmed from these experiential soft skills that I've learned. And I completely agree, they all stem from putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, with this growth mindset, right? Another thing we'll probably heard of, but it's really just an ideology that all the things that make a person amazing you're not born with them, right? They're trained. You put energy, you put effort, you put into practice, and you get better. And it's a mindset. It's something that my grade 12 calculus teacher, Mr. Hrees, really preached to us, and I am so grateful that he did. It puts you in a different frame of mind when you're taking a look at different problems. And with that, I've accomplished so much more. I'm more excited, more ready to take on more difficult problems, something that I would have looked at maybe another time like, oh, there's no way, but you can learn, you can grow. Additionally, I think that high school and school in general, it's the ideal environment to learn collaboratively. And I found that in the workforce, it's one of the most the greatest tools in my toolbox. Learning from others, learning well with others, it enhances everything 10,000-fold, and it's incredibly important.
Can I just quickly add on to something?
Absolutely.
I was just going to say that I think backing up on both of your points, one thing that I've been thinking about is actually teaching kids how to learn. I think that's so undermined. Just because I really believe this. I think that we're all lifelong learners. I like to think of myself as a student for life. Whether I'm doing online school, whether I'm at SIG, it doesn't matter. I'm a student for life. I'm always learning, I'm always growing. Like she said, I'm getting comfortable with the uncomfort, right? I'm kind of leaning into that unknown. And I think that learning just how to learn, learning how to grow, learning how to have an open mindset is such an important skill. When you think about employability skill, I think that's what it all comes down to. But I think that we need to be teaching kids more about and putting kids in these experiences like Shopify, et cetera, putting kids in leadership positions. That's where we're gonna actually teach them how to learn, how to grow, because you're gonna make mistakes regardless. Whether you're a CEO or whether you're a program manager, it doesn't matter, you're always gonna make mistakes, right? But learning how to learn and learning how to grow, that's an irreplaceable skill. And that's something that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. Just want to add that. Thank you.
So you just said the term I was going to start with, lifelong learner. That is what I'm going to focus on for when I look back. I say look back as if I don't have 5 months left. But throughout my high school career and before that, and she's laughing at me again.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm amazed.
Sure. So when I think of the term lifelong learner, I immediately do associate it with a student for life, like you said. But I also associate that being that learning is not just one style. A lifelong learner does not equate sitting here and watching someone speak with learning. They also equate the coffee break afterwards talking to people as learning. They equate everything you do as learning. And to be quite honest, I don't think high school has taught me many other soft skills. I think that my experience outside the system is what has helped me the most. But that wouldn't have started without that need, without that want to be a lifelong learner. That idea that you can learn in different ways, sometimes at the same time, and that school is just one specific way was probably the most impactful on me. Because I prioritized my education. But I ask you the question, what do you think is more educational? Coming to a conference like this, talking with program directors from across the country, and gaining insight on how different activities, different companies are run, or is it sitting in a math class while I'm partially falling asleep because I don't understand the content because I missed a day 3 days ago? Which one of those is more educational? So when I prioritize education, I'm not necessarily prioritizing this specific class this day, but I'm prioritizing what's going to make me a better person tomorrow. And I think that really ties into when you mentioned the most formative experience. So there is a YouTuber that I do not watch, but has a quote that I very much enjoy, and that is seek discomfort. And that is probably something that I repeat to myself constantly. Any situation that makes you uncomfortable means you're growing. And I've heard it echoed at the Actua National Office all the time. To stay relevant, you constantly have to change and you constantly have to grow. So how am I going to stay relevant to the future of work? I need to change, grow, and be open to the changes in it. And building off of that, my most formative experience is stepping into the role of student trustee. Now I look around the audience and I see a lot of faces not from Ontario, so that term is probably very foreign to you. But here in Ontario, along with the Board of Trustees, the provincial government in 1998 mandated that there must be student representation on these boards. So I was elected to represent student voice, not taxpayers. That's the key difference in where I come from at the table. And I could go on about that all I wanted to, but you'd probably fall asleep because it's very much not that interesting. But what I do take out of that is that experience has exposed me to the realities of the world. Working in the amazing Actua office, or spending time in foreign countries with friends, or doing collaborative exercises in scouting or with the city, I learn how to collaborate, I learn how to work with people. But it's a microcosm, because everybody there wants to be there. That is everyone's passion. At the school board and in the institution, that is not everyone's passion. Half the people there are there because it's the job they could get. Meaning that I now have to learn how to work with people that aren't as motivated. People that viscerally and verbally disagree with me in front of an audience. How do I handle those things? Those aren't things that you can even learn in a co-op. Those aren't things you definitely can't learn in the classroom. If I'm at the board and an adult trustee is arguing at me with something and is shouting at me, I can't learn how to deal with that in a classroom because a teacher would never do that. And that represents the microcosm that is this skill building thing called high school. So I think the most important thing high school can do is encourage us to seek discomfort outside of these institutions. Learn what you can, bring on that armor when you're in this space that is meant to build you up, so that when you get out into the real world, where everything is not so kind and so collaborative and perfect, you can work with it and you can continue to make strides.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's enough to invite you to the table. I think you have to give them the mic, right? And that's the whole purpose of it. That's something that I always say. So really, really well said, because it's not enough to invite you to the justice conferences, right? It's our world. It's our generation. We have to be able to make an impact in it. We have to have a say in what goes on. So you have to give them the mic. Really well said.
Or give them the table.
Or give them the table. That's true.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you each an individual question, and start with you, Ria. Obviously, your work, it's so interesting, and I want you to answer in two parts. One, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing at Sick Kids, specifically. Like, there's a lot of really sciencey, like deep science folks in this audience. They'll be interested to hear what you're doing. But I want to get a little bit more information about what got you there. So you said, okay, I had this, supportive network, or I learned how to collaborate. But you're now outside of school taking online courses. So tell us, what were some of the specific formative things that got you to this place that is quite remarkable for a 16-year-old? Not only the fact that you're doing the work, but that you're able to articulate it so eloquently. So just talk to us about that.
Definitely. So I actually forgot to introduce where I'm from. I'm from Markham, so Toronto. I am downtown Toronto all the time, but I'm from Markham. So a little bit of a longer train ride over here, but again, really happy to be here. So yeah, a little bit of what I do. I do a couple of things at Sick Kids, but I'll break down some of the most important things and kind of that journey to get there. So I hope I can inspire some people in the audience. But yeah, so I actually work in the AI and genomics sector. I'm being mentored by the head of AI from Sick Kids. Her name is Anna Goldenberg. She is incredible. And she's like, my moonshot facilitator. She always tells me that I can really do anything and reach for anything, and tells me never to settle. So she's amazing. And a little bit of what we do in that lab is basically you combining artificial intelligence, genomics, et cetera, all these different amazing applications using machine learning algorithms. But a project that I'm personally really passionate about that I'm actually conducting in my lab right now is 3D printing for newborns. So this is a project that I started a little bit ago, and especially with organ shortages in the country, a lot of people don't have access to organs, especially newborns and et cetera. That's a big problem that we're facing at Sick Kids right now, and we're actually going through the process of getting this project approved. But basically what it entails is bioprinting organs, literally 3D printing organs for newborns, for kids that don't have access to these types of things. So it's really, really incredible, and the thing that I love about these projects specifically is that I get to see the impact of them. I think a lot of people, they sit behind the scenes and they say all these things, they conduct the projects, but they never actually get to see the impact. One thing that I always said to my supervisors, to my team, to my research team, to my mentor, is I want to see the impact. I want to talk to these patients. I want to talk to their parents. I want to understand empathy, right? Because I think that there's a very big difference between that sympathy and that empathy factor. I want to feel what they're feeling. And if there's something that I'm most excited about at SICK, that's that, right? Empathy, understanding what the other person's feeling, being in the other person's shoes. So that's a project that I'm personally really passionate about. And I'm also basically integrating virtual reality into a lot of what I do. So basically enhancing doctor-to-patient connection using virtual reality. But yeah, that's a little bit of a rundown. And I want to talk a little bit about also what Jen said, getting there. It definitely wasn't an easy process. And I actually wrote basically a 16-minute article on this, kind of like a research paper. But I guess I'll run it down. I talked a bit about this in the beginning, but I really wanted something more. You know, school gave me that amazing collaborative environment. And it did teach me a lot of skills that I still carry to this day. I was fortunate to grow up with an amazing community at school. But I really wanted more. And where we're from in Markham, you don't really get a lot of these jobs. Like the most that you would do at hospitals is volunteer. That's like at Markham Civil Hospital, or hospital 30 minutes away. But getting sick kids was really my moonshot. That's what I wanted most. I wanted to actually make an impact. I wanted to step into that world of uncomfort because I knew that I would be uncomfortable there. I knew that it wouldn't be easy talking to patients and communicating with them, right? Imagine seeing a kid who has like a life-threatening disease, right? And the only difference between you and them is that you were born luckier than them. That's crazy to think about, right? But I wanted that experience. I wanted to travel to developing countries and work with villages and sleep on the floor and talk to patients and talk to their parents. I wanted all of that. So I started telling my teachers, hey, I want to do this. I started researching into the co-op program. I did a lot of research on my own. That's another thing. I think that we usually all blame schools for not having, proper education sometimes in terms of STEM, but I think we realize that we have to get it ourselves sometimes, right? Not everything is going to be handed to you on a silver platter. You have to go after it yourself. So when I started realizing my own internal power, I started thinking, okay, well, if I want this so bad, if I really want to work at SickKids, if I really want to work at a hospital, if I really want to get this experience, I have to do it myself. So I reached out to like 50 people, emailed hundreds of researchers, emailed my supervisor at co-op, who's amazing, by the way, and I started telling my teachers, I started gathering recommendations. And I got a lot of responses. I got some mixed responses. Some of them were, oh my God, this is so exciting, you're going to do great. But most of them were, you want to wait till you're older, maybe this is not the right position for you, maybe you're not strong enough to handle this type of stuff. But regardless, I kept on going because I think that no matter what people tell you, what you stick with and what you know is the most important. That voice inside your head telling you that you can do it, that's the most important. So when I went in for my interview, it was incredible. I love the entire process. I love communicating with my supervisor, and my journey to get there was something I like to call unconventional. I think that one thing that my mentor always says is that to achieve unconventional success, you have to take an unconventional path. Working at SickKids at the age of 16, doing online courses, having to transition to this entire new life, it's nothing but unconventional. It's not a conventional path to life. And I get a lot of responses from people, talking about different things. But like you said, education can be in any way, shape, or form. When I'm at SickKids, I'm learning every single moment. Whether I'm talking to my supervisor, whether I'm talking to a doctor, whether I'm talking to a patient, it doesn't matter. I'm learning every single day. And that's what's most important. That's what counts. Because that's basically the future of work, right? Being able to adapt yourself to a growing environment. So I was given the mic so many times, and I was lucky enough to speak at a lot of the SickKids innovation events about personally what I'm doing and targeting a lot of the research towards the SickKids skills that we're so proud of promoting: excellence, innovation, integrity, promise, empathy, innovation, all these different types of things I carry with me every single time I go into the hospital. So I'm really, really fortunate to be there, and it taught me so many things about, life is too short not to believe in change, right? Life is too short not to believe in these moonshot ideas. Life is too short not to promote youth and not to tell them they can do anything. Because if even one person, didn't tell me that I couldn't do it, it's crazy if you think about it. So, I'm really nothing. I always say I'm really nothing without the people around me. I'm nothing without my mentors, because all it takes is just one yes. All it takes is just one person saying, you can do this, or you can go after this. And, through that, my life completely changed. But yeah, that was a little bit of my journey. Sorry it takes so much time.
Oh, not at all. Wonderful. So, Ganaba, we met you because we Actua met you because you participated in one of the InSTEM land camps, which Virtual Ventures was engaged in, and Actua's outreaching. and then you became involved in the youth council. I want you to tell us a little bit about that land camp experience and what, I love hearing this story that you tell me because you weren't a STEM kid, you weren't. So tell us about what the experience was and how that has contributed to the path that you're on now.
Sure. So I do have a piece of paper. You'll have to forgive me for that. I just want to articulate this very precisely because there's a couple of things I want to say that I need to communicate practically perfectly. And I want to start off by addressing why the land camps are a thing and why I think they're necessary. On a personal level, we all see statistics. It's the saying, 1 million deaths is a statistic, but 1 death is a tragedy. We are desensitized by numbers in our modern day world. We will never be desensitized by individual stories. So I'm going to tell my story because I think that might be a little more impactful. So when I was growing up throughout elementary school and middle school, I don't think I could count the number of times that a teacher told me that I would just grow up to be a drunk or a drug addict. I cannot count the number of times that I would get a 1 on a test and I would be congratulated because they didn't think an Indian could do that. That was my continuous experience throughout elementary and middle school. And it wasn't until high school that I found practically any allies at all. So when I found out about this camp, it was very odd to me. It was very confusing because I was the kid that never achieved anything. I never had good marks. They were mediocre at best. And I had no positive Indigenous role models. In fact, I didn't even know any Indigenous person who I wasn't related to outside of my family, or at least I thought. So when I heard about this STEM camp for Indigenous kids that was for credit, I was dumbfounded. It took me a while to think about that. How does that work? How can I pursue something like that if everyone says I can't? But living on that mantra of seek discomfort, I signed up. And I had no idea what I signed up for. In complete honesty, I was not a STEM kid. You said it yourself. I say it all the time. I hated math. I still kind of hate math, but I like it more now.
You're not alone.
I cringed at the mention of science, and coding was a far-off, futuristic term that I didn't even want to think about. But I drove into the parking lot, I said goodbye to my parents, and I got on a bus. And from that camp, on a personal level only, it was incredible. Because we didn't drive far. We only drove 2 hours to a place called Thompson Island. But there was an Indigenous elder there who was leading the camp. And every other kid was Indigenous. I would introduce myself saying I'm from Chisasibi, and other kids would look up and say, hey, I know where that is. Most teachers don't even know where it is on a map, and here's people my age knowing where it is. And that does wonders for a child to be seen, to be recognized. And the fun part of this is I actually met a cousin that I didn't know I had on that trip. And we were neighbors when I was younger. So it was incredible in a personal experience. I have stories from that camp that I still tell to this day. From hating birds because of my solo. Thank you, Outward Bound. I hate birds now. Cannot stand their chirping. Or sitting around a campfire making bannock and having my friends spray bug spray directly into my eye. There's a multitude of stories there. But what I took away from that camp, and what I think a lot of other